It's 3 o'clock. Thank you for availing yourself for this meeting today. On a Thursday afternoon, it is due to the fact that the plenary started at 10 on Tuesday, and therefore we had to apply to move it. It seems for me currently that we're not a quorum, but let me first continue. Can I ask that we observe a moment for silent prayer or meditation? Thank you. Apologies. I received one apology from Honorable Reddy that will not attend this meeting. Nosipu, any other apologies?
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Yes, the Minister is not present due to a prior commitment until 6 p.m. Deputy Minister Mr. Sihlulu is off sick. Deputy Minister Mr. Mahlobo is leading the delegation. And then Mr. Reddy also submitted an apology. That is all, Chairperson.
So far I can see 4 members. We do not.
5, Ms. Kobe also joined, Chairperson.
Okay, so we are a quorum now?
We are good to go, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Deputy Minister, welcome to you and the department, the DG and the team. Thank you for leading this presentation today. I hope it won't take us that long on a Thursday afternoon. I'm going to ask Minister that you lead us in this presentation to deal with the fourth quarter expenditure report for 25-26 financial year. Welcome to you, Minister, and you may continue.
Thank you so much, Person. Thank you so much, Chairperson and other members. I'm joined by the Director General, Dr. Sean Phillips, is in his boardroom with the entire executive management. And on behalf of Minister Majodina, we firstly want to convey our sincere thanks and gratitude to the leadership of the committee and yourself and all the members for the work that we have done with you to conclude our budget, including at the level of NCOP, and the approval we got it in the National Assembly on Tuesday. And we also congratulate our national team. They made us proud in as much as they made us not to sleep, Chairperson. This report is cumulative now because it's at the end of the fourth quarter. At the end of the fourth quarter, Chair, it now looks at the entire year. One of the key issues that we needed to bring to your attention, supported by yourselves, we have managed to conclude issues of institutional reform at a departmental level. With the support of the portfolio committee, the amendment of technical amendment to the South African National Water Resource Infrastructure Agency Act, it was done, made into law. The agency now is fully operational. The board is in place. There is the acting CEO that is there. Working with yourselves, we are very pleased to indicate that we have concluded the operationalization of all the 6 CMAs, in as much as there are certain issues that we're discussing with yourselves about viability, issues of transfers of staff, but technically we're done with that particular process. Issues around the institutional reform of the transformation of irrigation board to water use association. That's what we actually report here. And we're also reporting to you that a number of projects that the leadership of yourselves, we have been involved, major mega infrastructure projects. We are very pleased to indicate that they've really been unblocked, but the challenges remain. You remember you did Lesotho. We also did Lesotho ourselves with President Glenn Williams, Umzimvubu, Zanini. Most of these projects, they are mostly on track, but they are not, remember, they are on track, not on track on the original timelines. At the very same time, we committed that this thing of transparency, by municipalities in the management of their water system. The drop reports, again, they've been reissued. This time around, the full report that was issued was the green report. And then we also issued the progress report on the no drop and the blue drop. We actually had a chance to discuss that report with yourselves, but it all happened in the last quarter. Also in the last quarter, we were able to conclude the assessment by a number of these municipalities on water in the resolutions, and we've discussed that a number of these municipalities are not improving. That is also followed by the issues that the president declared, this issue of water supply and sanitation reliability, a national crisis of which the national plan has been concluded. Only some few issues on the detailed implementation, but it was accepted by all of us at the Watercom level, but also at the Presidential Coordinating Council. Municipalities, already certain elements are being implemented, including the introduction of unserved communities. And a number of projects that are also indicated by the team on intervention in municipalities, whether in Standerton, whether in Kanyagut, whether in Zululand, whether in Giyani. Those are some of the things that are in our reports. One of the issues that we need to report, Chairperson, there are issues of the turnaround plan in the department when it comes to financial management. Remember, you made us to produce a turnaround plan that we've been reporting over some time. One of the issues, the capacity of the department. Remember, the issue of vacancies is a matter that has been attended to. Sean will indicate how we've reduced them. And then the other matter we are very proud was the issue of the reform around water use licensing. There is a slight improvement on the performance. On program 2 and 3, Chairperson, the performance is not at the level where we want. Program 2 of water services and water resources, some of our projects, you remember we indicated are multi-year. You will see the expenditure there. And some of these are mostly the monies that are transferred into municipalities, but a number of them were to convert the direct grants into indirect grants. Lastly, we need to indicate that overall expenditure in the department has improved again. Is more than 97.9 or 97.8, which is within the norm of the PFMA, which is a requirement. At this stage, I'm going to request that our DG, through your permission, is allowed to take the team through at a high level. We did circulate the report so that we can have good engagement with the members of the committee. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, DG. Once again, our sincere condolences with the loss of your father. You were not present at the previous meeting since you had to go to Canada, but from the committee side and everybody on this platform, I believe our sincere condolences to you and your family. Thank you. You may continue.
The presentation is going to be in 3 parts, where I start by just giving a few highlights of progress in that quarter, and then I'll hand over to Babawa to do the performance information, and then Frans will cover the financial information. I think the Deputy Minister has covered in his introduction many of the issues that we've got here in my highlight slide. He mentioned the progress that was made with institutional reform, so I won't repeat that. Just a couple of points in addition to those made by the DM include this last point on this slide, that we made good progress in reducing the vacancy rate for 2 reasons. One is that as per DPSA instructions, we removed all the unfunded vacant posts from PERSOL. And secondly, we did also make progress with advertising and filling of positions. Next slide, please. There's also some information on this slide about progress that we made with some of the major national water resource infrastructure projects, including Clan William Dam and Sanin and Mzumvubu, some of them, the Ntabalanga Dam, some of the milestones that were achieved there during that quarter. Next slide, please. And we also continue to make progress with improving our turnaround times for the processing of water use license applications, and processed 81% of them during that quarter within the 30-day target. And we, as I've indicated previously, we do focus on those that weren't processed within 30 days and prioritizing, making sure that they're processed as quickly as possible after the 30 days. It should say 90 days. Shouldn't it? It's an error. It should say 90 days after the expiry of the 90-day time frame. And then we've also listed some particular examples of projects that we've made in progress that we've made in finalizing some of the long-delayed water services projects. There's an annexure that we submitted to the Portfolio Committee with progress on particular projects in various provinces. And if required by the committee, we can also ask DDG Marty to present that annexure, which has a lot more detail on the water services projects. With that introduction, I'd like to hand over to Babawa to take us through the performance information.
Thank you, DG. Good afternoon to the members, DM and colleagues in the platform. Just this slide is a standard comparison of the financial and non-financial performance for the period under review. If you allow me, Chairperson, I will go to slide 9, where there is an indication of the comparison of where we were in the previous financial year. Compared to the current financial year, you see that the percentages are still the same, slight variations in the performance of respective programs. Then if you go to slide 10 on the performance against the preferential procurement regulations, that is an indication that we obtained 59% of the SMMEs, and exempted micro enterprises constitute 35%, and qualifying small enterprises is at 24%. Then slide 11 just indicates our procurement versus the designated groups. You'll see that we currently have a 58% against black companies with an ownership of 50%, which amounts to over 3.5 billion. Women, we had a 1.9 billion procurement from them, and youth-owned companies 487 million, and persons with disabilities at 25 million. Then if you go to the respective programs, Chairperson, I would not want to go into detail. That is just a highlight of the programs, how they performed by the end of the fourth quarter. And we also indicate key highlights of the achievements per sub-program, which is constituting the performance. We're just highlighting in the first program. One thing that I would want to highlight is something that the CFO will probably concentrate on in the increase of our data days, and a slight regression in our annual expenditure as compared to the previous financial year. And if you go to the water resources management program, which is slide 18, it just indicates 2 of the sub-programs that obtained 100% of what they had planned for the quarter, some at various levels of performance. The subsequent slides, slide 19 and 20, just highlight the achievements of the program. We just wanted to actually indicate within our planning space some of the projects that we had not completed the processes associated with the record of implementation decisions. Also, just the one river system where we did not meet the target of completing the process for water resources classes and resource quality objectives. Then we just indicating that of the 7 projects that we had planned to have under implementation readiness, we could meet the targets for 3 of those projects. but then some of the 4 projects that we did not meet the fourth quarter target is also included. Implementation of those projects, the DG actually mentioned in his slides. If you'll allow me, I won't go into detail, but we're just explaining some delays in some of the projects. Also, the completion of the one project we had planned for Tzaneen Dam, we are highlighting that we could not complete it as planned, but we're indicating the reasons for that underperformance. We also go into our operations and maintenance activities where we're looking at the dam safety evaluations and conveyance systems. So which is on slide 27. We are just highlighting the challenges we experienced there in terms of completing those activities. And then on slide 28, we are just talking to the water resources regulation activities, where we are just indicating some challenges with some transversal activities we're doing for the CMAs, which affected our ability to do oversight activities. We're also highlighting in that slide the progress towards the draft bill of the economic regulator. But last but not least, we are just also highlighting certain challenges in terms of completing the compulsory licensing activities. Slide 30, we are highlighting all the strategies to overcome this underperformance. Chairperson, if you'll allow me, I won't go into detail. Then the third sub-program, which is water services, where our grants are. One program obtained 100% of their planned performance. Slide 32, we're highlighting the key activities there. But the slide that I'd want to actually highlight to the committee is that we had several projects that we had under construction. Under RBIG, we had 90, of which 17 were completed. Under Water Services Infrastructure Grant, over 424 projects, of which 140 were completed. Under the budget for facility infrastructure, we had an acceleration of several projects in the Western Cape, which were started earlier, and that resulted in 21 projects over what we had planned of 15, and 5 of those projects were completed. And of course, the DM mentioned the intervention projects that we had, with one actually completed by the end of the financial year. Chairperson, if you allow me, I wouldn't want to go into detail. I would like to hand over to the CFO. Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to the Chairperson and Portfolio Committee.
Chairperson, Ms. Kobe's hand is up.
Sorry, I can't see it. Honorable Kobe?
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, I understand that we're given a high-level presentation, but Chair, it's absolutely unacceptable that we're just given headlines and then they just move over slides. I think they're doing an injustice to the performance review. She doesn't need to go line by line, but I mean, it's absolutely, I think, unacceptable that we've just grazed over everything. In fact, she has not mentioned, the presenter has not mentioned anything within those slides. Just we have 4 things we can move over. We have 5 things we can move over. I think it's absolutely unacceptable. I don't know how we should proceed going forward, but Chair, a line by line does not need to be read, but we cannot be taken for granted like this. Thank
Honorable Member, this is what we request from them. You had ample time to go through this presentation line by line. They give the highlights of this report, and then you are more than welcome to ask as many questions as you would like to ask in rounds of 3 to get clarity on certain issues. But our request, and that is from day one, is that we don't want you give us the highlights. It's been gone through by the members, and there
if I may.
is ample time then for you to ask questions.
If I may.
You're welcome.
Yes, I do understand that, but basically, all we've been told with every slide is that there are four things, then we move over to the next one. I do understand the high level, but I don't understand the grazing over of it. I know the formatting of presentations, but this does not seem like a fair rendition of any of the points that need to be taken across. But Chair, I'm happy to take your guidance. They can move through with the presentation.
Yeah, I think this is really how we've been dealing with this issue. Maybe there is, in some instances, more information than in others, but you will have the ample opportunity to ask questions on it. Is the other member satisfied with the ruling I'm making that we continue? Can I get any indication whether someone else feels the same as Honorable Kobe? If there's none, can we then continue, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson and the Portfolio Committee, DM, DG, and colleagues. The slide that is reflected here, Chairperson, summarizes the cumulative financial report of the department for Q4. As indicated also by the Deputy Minister, Mahlobo, we have spent overall 97.9% of the budget for the financial year. And the total amount which remained unspent is 489 million. And that is explained in summary through the various economic classifications. A significant portion of that is under water services management, and on compensation of employees as well as goods and services, we have spent the full budget after environments. Then on transfers and subsidies, we had an underspending of 431 million. That has to do with the non-approval of the stopping and reallocation of conditional grants, which was submitted to National Treasury. So we had to adjust the spending for those municipalities. The department is currently engaging with Treasury. We did write as well to Treasury so that we can resolve this matter going forward, as it is affecting the projects that we are implementing in different provinces. And then on capital payments for capital expenditure, the total amount that remained unspent is 58 million. And that had to do with our water services infrastructure grant that we are implementing through the 6B grant allocations. And I'll speak to those in the subsequent slide. The next slide summarizes the narrative that I just provided. So there are two accounts. This is the main account. So this is these are the figures that I was referring to on the previous slide. So the underspending, as indicated there through the available budget, is under water services management branch. Classifications, as I said, is both your transfers as well as your buildings and other fixed structures. On the next slide, it will be the water trading entity, which is operating on a different accounting system, accrual-based, compared to the main account, which is reporting on a modified cash basis of accounting. So with regard to the water trading entity, the budget spend is at 78%. We also have some of the advances that we have made that were not cleared at the end. They will only be cleared once we receive the relevant supporting documents and reconciliations, and that will then be allocated to expenditure. So this account is funded by both the collection of revenue from sales of water, as well as the augmentation fund for some of our projects. We can move to the next slide. This summarizes, Chairperson, the main grants as well as the programs that we are having, including the transfers that we have made to all our catchment management agencies. as well as the transfers that we have made to the various water boards, as indicated there, the projects for Mahalis Water, the Pilansberg Bulk Water Supply, and also Val Central. There we have the Belbedacht Pipeline, Balfontein and Virginia Water Treatment Works, including the Valhamahara Bulk Supply Phase 4. And then we also have Umgeni Utugela there. The other transfers relate to the funding for other capital projects, the augmentation, which also includes the acid mine drainage. Then we also had transfers to the DBSA under budget facility for infrastructure for the Olifants Management Model program with those phases as indicated there. The last one being the transfer that we make for to Komati Basin Water Authority. And then regarding the transfers on the next slide, as indicated in the summary of this report, we have underspending on those provinces. The details are attached to this presentation as an annexure. And we are, as I've indicated, that the minister did write a letter to our Minister of Finance regarding the non-approval of those reprioritizations that we make, the stopping and reallocation. And then on the 6B grants, we also had in the Free State our project which are implemented by Val Central there. We had some of the project scopes that necessitated the need to accommodate unforeseen site conditions that the contractors were encountering during construction that increased our expenditure given those unforeseen site conditions. And that also was the that also affected Northwest as well. For Potchefstroom and Brits, there we had to assist Mahalis Water. They are implementing some of the projects there, and we're also ensuring that we avoid any work stoppages, program delays, as well as potential standing times that normally comes if we had to stop some of the works. So for the WISIG 6B grant, we also had some challenges there with Free State. It related to procurement with our municipality, but also there are projects that were under investigation by the SIU. And we also had the Limpopo projects that procurement was being finalized at year end, and we could not spend those funds. And then under Northwest as well, Chairperson, we had some of the challenges with the procurements. We have implementing agents there. They have since recovered in the new financial year. Mahalis Water is implementing some of those projects there. Then we are also presenting summary of the financial recovery plan as indicated by DM that is part of our APP. We have ensured that we manage the budgets as well as the expenditure, ensure that we do not incur some of the improper expenditures that we have previously incurred. And then the next slide simply summarizes the process that we are required to adhere to regarding the condonations. We were requested before by the portfolio committee to ensure that we outline the process as well as compliance. So this is a full process that we'll have to go through. So it explains the reasons now on the next slide why we still have some of the balance. On the next slide, we do have some of the balances, historic balances that we are currently working on. We are waiting for finalization of the investigations. We also have some of the matters that are with the courts. So once those are concluded, we will be able to get the necessary condonation from a National Treasury, and those that need to be approved by the accounting officer, they will also be approved. So the next slides, Chairperson, those are the summaries of the status for each case, starting with the main account. We have Guyana, war on leaks and desalination plant there, war on leaks. The matter is with the SIU. We are awaiting a final report from SIU. And then we still have some of the cases that I've listed there for BEP, as well as some that are with National Treasury that relates to transfer payments. They have indicated that they are still processing those. Then the next slide is a summary of the water trading entities irregular expenditure. The desalination plant was funded from 2 accounts historically, so that is why we still have this other amount in here. So all of those, including the status, is reflected there. We do have our labor relations colleagues, so if there's a need to elaborate on the cases there, we should be able to do that. Then we can move to slide number this. Let's proceed to the next slide. So that is still a continuation indicating what action has been taken. And these are the some of the remedial actions that we constantly implement to ensure that we do not have reoccurrence of those previous cases. And then the next slide is where we are reflecting the trend analysis there. On the next slide, Chairperson, where we are demonstrating that we are working towards elimination of these irregular expenditures. So as you can see now that the graph there is really indicating a decline from the previous financial years. The same trend is observed on the next slide under a fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We do have also that declining trend there. We can see that the efforts that the department has been putting on this will yield. So the remaining cases that we are having, we are hopeful now that we are in the new year that we should be able to resolve those. The details of each province and municipality is part of the appendix to this. Thank you, Chairperson. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Minister, would you like to add anything to this?
No, thank you so much, Chairperson. Our team has covered the issues, and we noted that maybe my team was flying, but Honorable Koga, there is a little bit of some details. The structure we took with the DG in areas where we have not achieved our target. On the right-hand side, we've given a little bit more information. And as I said earlier on, Chairperson, our biggest area of concern was Program 2 and 3, where most of this infrastructure work is. And the under expenditure of about 400 and something million. There are some issues that we're engaging with National Treasury because we don't want to lose that money. Already those projects are already committed on the ground. But we see a lot of marked improvement. As we have said, the more these municipalities are struggling, the more we actually proceed ourselves to do indirect grants, use our own agencies, which are the water boards, but also using the district municipalities that have capacity. In our construction unit, we do see a lot of progress that is being made, and including the issues that the DG has dealt with, mostly because one of the biggest problems that delays these projects are the issues of procurement, and we've introduced these procurement reforms. The issues of servitude, Chairperson, they are becoming a problem when we cross people's land and others. Now and then, these matters are coming up, apart from those people who are demanding work as mafias and so forth, which are mostly some of the issues. But other than that, Chair, we'll take the guidance from members, then we'll account the entire team of my DDGs led by the DG, and myself will be able to clarify some of the issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we start with the questioning? We'd like to start with the questions. Honorable Moore.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the DM, the DG, and all of the team for the presentation. Chairperson, I'm not going to go on my usual rant about the formatting of the presentations. I will raise some concerns. There are a significant number of inconsistencies in the report. But Chairperson, I'd like to raise the concern that I'm not convinced that we're seeing the improvements we'd like to see. We appear to be spending, but not delivering at the level required, quite frankly, during a national water crisis. When I looked at the third quarter report and compared it to the fourth quarter report, overall, non-financial performance regressed from 60% to 57%, while Program 3, which is Water Services Management, fell from 44% to 40%. So this is Q3 to Q4. And Chair, this is the program closest to the lived reality of residents. You've heard me speak on this. Dry taps, failing wastewater works, delayed bulk infrastructure, and municipalities unable to provide reliable services. The poor performance of WSIG and RBIG, WSIG projects, the completion of RBIG, the BFI projects, and bulk sewer projects suggests that we are still not succeeding where the pain of the water crisis is most acute. And it's particularly concerning that many delays are simply deferred into the next financial year, and the next financial year, and the next financial year. We really need clearer answers on what is being done to progress projects forward clearly, and a better idea of how they're moving. Chair, I've got 9 questions, but I'll start with my first 3. I'd appreciate if and I think Honorable Kobe made a good point. With the formatting of this, it's hard to get the details. So I'd like to ask the DG and his team if they can maybe expand on how does the department explain, it's a spending of 97.9% on the main account, but overall performance regressed from 60% in Q3 to 57% in Q4, and particularly to expand on the water services management regression from 44% of targets to 40%. It's moving in the wrong direction, DG. The second question is the biggest public pain point in the national water crisis is at a municipal water services level. We all know this, and we all know that we aren't directly applied there. DM, you made the point as well on where there's challenges. But can I get an idea, maybe more detail? Why is Program 3 still the weakest performing program in the department? Because that's the critical, that's the cold front that we really need to see some movement in terms of our ability to influence, or the department's ability to influence the water crisis. And then finally, it looks like a number of key infrastructure projects, and I'm not going to go through them all, there's a number of them, but they were supposed to move forward, appear to stall. And I think it's a problem with the reporting, Chair, because we don't get to know, in the report, you don't get to see what is said in the Q3 report unless you go back and have a look. But for example, the Sanitation dam was, in Q3, it was at 60% against a target of 90%. And then in an entire quarter, it's moved to either 61% or 63%. The Q4 report reports different numbers in different places. This is one of the challenges, against a target of 100%. So at a time when we should be finishing the project, it seems like we're stalling rather than progressing at a reasonable state. If I can get some info on that as well, please, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister?
I will ask the DG and the team to start answering the questions, then asked by Honorable Moore, then I will conclude after they've done that part, Chair.
Thank you very much. DG?
Thank you, Chairperson. Babawa, can you start, please?
Okay, thanks, DG. The honorable member is correct. There is a slight regression compared to the third quarter, particularly from the water services space. There are various actually reasons that are linked to specific projects that actually happened in that space. If you look at it in terms of the projects as we have categorized them in the plan, we had planned by the third quarter to have actually had all our 32 mega projects under construction, for example. But by the end of the third quarter, we had managed to actually complete 28. Now, there are various reasons that are assigned with those specific ones. I'm going to give an example with the Mpumalanga one. In Mpumalanga, there were 2 projects that should have actually started. The one is, it did not start for the first one, which relates to Sukaligwa, is that the project had to be placed on hold. There was a decision by the department to place a moratorium on the construction of new projects in an effort to reduce our current commitment numbers. That is one reason. And the second one is relating to the release of the state land that also did not start, which affected the department's performance. Another one that is sitting in the Northern Cape that did not start, it relates to the sourcing of technical equipments that actually affected the starting of the projects. And also there are some projects that were actually affected by the delay in the funding agreements with an implementing agent. That relates to the mega projects in the water services space. Now, there are also several projects in the space of large projects, which is that spectrum of 250 million to just below $1 billion, where there were several challenges in the municipal space, which is the 5 Bs, and there are also several challenges in the 6B space, as Honorable Member highlighted. In the 5 Bs, there were delays in the municipal space. The approval of budgets is one of the things. Some projects, they still did not have them completed the planning processes that are actually required. For some that were under construction, there were contractor issues, whether they are poor performing and they had to be terminated, and there's a process that actually delays that. And we had to reappoint certain projects as well. So that is it in the regional park infrastructure space, DG.
Thank you very much. Rizimati, would you like to add before I make a few points?
Yes, no, thanks, DG. The addition with regard to water services performance, which I think Honorable Moe has rightfully so raised, it's linked to a bit of what Obawalo has indicated. There are 2 schedules that we run on our grants, 5B, which goes directly to municipalities, and the 5 and 6B, where we are able to appoint implementing agents. But both these 2 schedules are confronted with the same challenges on the ground: work stoppages, delay procurement processes, and a whole lot that are quite clear in the segments. Is that the only way we can show that we have achieved 100% is when the project is completed in our reporting template. So that is where the challenge is. But if you look at our actual duty as the National Transferring Officer, we are so much dependent on the ground conditions and how contractors perform on the ground, and how projects run very fast. Now, the key issue which has been raised is, what are we doing to change the situation around? We could not present the other presentation which the DG spoke about, which is an annexure. If you have a look at it, what we have done is to increase the conversion of the 5Bs to 6B so that we make use of the implementing agent, in this case, the water boards. There's a slight improvement compared to projects that are directly implemented by municipalities. And the fact that we can't allocate budgets directly to to water boards, we still have to allocate budgets to those municipalities. Where we are implementing them through 6B, there is some slight improvement. We are even making efforts to even use our construction units so that we can use them as contractors on the ground. In this case, it's us trying to look at different models to see how fast we can implement project. And lastly, Chair, one of the hidden concept that is not reflected in the presentation is that although we look at the regression from 44% to 40% in the third quarter and the overall decline, what we are not reporting on mostly, which is the underlying fact, is there are work packages, most of those projects that might not be fully completed, but how we prioritize or implement our construction projects, we make effort to ensure that although some of the work packages in that project might not be fully completed, that which is completed can still be able to utilize. For instance, we can be refurbishing or upgrading a water treatment works. Although we must report on completion on 100%, but what we do, we can start by refurbishing some of the filters in that water treatment works or wastewater treatment works to get it functional. So although the 100% completion is not yet realized, it does not always translate to the non-functionality of that particular infrastructure. But those are some of the key challenges that we have on the ground. As I've said, DG, we are working on using our implementing agent, in this case, the water boards, because on the ground, we always face those challenges. There are, of course, other municipalities that are implementing quite well. We have Hertzeband that we've used as an implementing agent in Lagos intervention. So we are trying different models to overturn the situation. And we're starting to study the model and see the reflections and how we're actually turning the tide. And also reviewing how we are reporting progress in this platform. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Rezimati. If I could make a few additions, Chairperson. Firstly, on the question raised by Honourable Moore about the lack of a clear linear relationship between the level of expenditure and the level of performance. We have been asked this question in the Portfolio Committee before, and I did respond that it's because of the nature of the APP and the reports against the APP as per the framework prescribed by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. We have to set targets for the different programs and indicators, and those programs aren't necessarily correlated with expenditure. So you can have, for example, 10 different indicators and targets for a program which has relatively little expenditure on it, and you can have only 1 or 2 indicators and targets for a program which has a large amount of expenditure. And so when you look at percentage of targets achieved versus percentage expenditure, there isn't going to be a correlation. It's not going to follow logically that a high level of expenditure results in a high percentage of targets achieved, because a big percentage of the targets might be on a program which has very little expenditure on it. So the whole system is not designed to provide any indication of any relationship between expenditure and performance or achievement of targets as a measure of performance. On the issue of Program 3, I think Rezimati has partly covered it, and he's indicated that Program 3 is largely about providing the RBIG and WISIG grants to municipalities. The 6B option, where we appoint implementing agents, is supposed to be the exception, not the norm. The grants are designed to go to municipalities. So municipalities are responsible for running the projects, for doing the procurement and for managing the projects. And we know that quite a number of our municipalities have quite severe weaknesses and they therefore struggle often to manage the projects effectively and to spend time easily. And it's for that reason that we've been taking advantage of the fact that the country has a medium-term expenditure framework, and that we're allowed by National Treasury to manage our projects over the MTF over a 3-year period using our 3-year MTF budget allocations that we have for the grants. And it's through that we've been able to reduce our under expenditure in the grants significantly over the last few years. It's because we have indicated to National Treasury that you almost always get unexpected delays on construction projects all over the world. It's not unique to South Africa. But that fact is compounded by the fact that where they're implemented by weak municipalities, those delays can be even worse than normal. So recognizing that, we have previously had this agreement with Treasury that we can move funds from slow-moving projects to faster-moving projects at the end of one financial year, and then put the funds back in the next financial year, because we can manage the allocations over the MTF period. And that is why we have a bit more under expenditure for this financial year under review, because as Frans indicated in his presentation, for the first time in several years, National Treasury didn't approve those stoppages of transfers to some municipalities and reallocation of them to other fast-moving municipalities towards the end of last financial year. And that is what we're engaging with Treasury about, because they have approved those measures in previous years, which enabled us to make sure that we fully spend the grants. So the last point I'd want to make on this issue is that the grants alone are not sufficient to turn around water service delivery at municipal level. The amount of work that needs to be done, just in terms of the capital backlogs, is much, much bigger than the grants. We previously indicated to the Portfolio Committee that we estimate the capital backlogs at municipal level, excluding the metropolitan municipalities, to be at least 400 billion rand, whereas our grants together are only 12 billion rand per year. So we can't expect the grants alone to address the decline in municipal water and sanitation service delivery. And secondly, the grants aren't allowed to be used for operation and maintenance. And many of the problems which occur at municipal level with service delivery for water and sanitation are due to weak operations and maintenance and a lack of funding of operation and maintenance by the municipalities. And that can't be financed by the grants. It has to be financed from revenue from the sale of water. And the reason why that's not happening is because of the very high levels of non-revenue water and the lack of ring fencing of revenue from the sale of water, which, as we've reported to the Portfolio Committee, we're working on various reforms to address those issues. Thank you, Chair.
DG, can I ask, are you looking at expanding on the programs, on the grants, where municipalities may, if they are capable of doing infrastructure upgrades, or is that not in the scope that you are looking at the moment?
Chairperson, we do always ask National Treasury for more money for the grants, and we think we have the capacity to spend more money, but because of the fiscal situation that the country's in and the low levels of economic growth, limited tax revenues, the Treasury hasn't been able to give us greater allocations for RBIG and WISIG. I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, Chair, but every budget cycle we ask for increased allocations given the size of the backlogs.
Sorry, maybe I did not explain myself well. So you have indicated that these grants can only be utilized for infrastructure, but out of the income, they've got to do maintenance. But in most cases, the maintenance is of such a nature that if we don't step in, that will collapse totally. So I'm asking whether there is a possibility that you would look at the grants to also be utilized for that, where it is permitted and where it is crucial to get funding, and maybe then use the grant to do that maintenance that is needed.
Chair, it's National Treasury which puts the conditions on the grant through the Division of Revenue Act. And this point that I've made, that the grants are only allowed to be used for capital expenditure, is one of the conditions that National Treasury has put on the grant. For the MIG grant run by COGTA, National Treasury has a condition that a certain percentage of that MIG grant can be used for maintenance, but only maintenance of a rehabilitation nature, not for routine maintenance and operation. And when we've engaged with National Treasury on this issue, they've articulated to us why they have this position. It's because they want to avoid setting bad precedents. They want to avoid establishing a culture which might be unintended. And that is a culture where municipalities start thinking that they don't need to focus on collecting revenue and addressing non-revenue water. They don't need to take responsibility for operation and maintenance because as a last resort, the national government will step in and give them money to do things that they should be using, that they should be collecting revenue for and using that revenue to fund. And then it might provide a perverse incentive for them to use revenue from the sale of water for other purposes, in the knowledge that National Treasury will cover what they're supposed to do with the revenue.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you very much. Honourable Moore, that was the
Chair, I wanted to close.
my apology, Minister. You wanted to add something.
No, thanks. On the responses by the DG and DTGs, we want to indicate that Honourable Moore, we share your concern. We are also not happy that there is a regression in terms of this particular program. And the DG has clearly outlined the issues. But what are we looking at? In our engagement with the department, the chairperson, there is a dashboard in which we are looking at these projects. Even in the NCOP, I'm going to request DG what Minister presented of all these projects, where they are, what was the start date, how many people are supposed to benefit, what has been the reasons. We do have a list of that, chairperson, our dashboard. The second point, Honourable Moore, that we need to improve is this thing called social facilitation, where there's a lot of disturbances by a number of people who want to be involved. The Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, they were presenting something to Cabinet so that it can be able to be used to manage these issues of disturbances by communities. On our side, chairperson, we need to tighten the issue of poor performance by contractors. Because if you look at that particular column at the end, Honourable Moore, you could see many of the reasons are poor contractors in terms of the capacity of the contractors, but also just to dismiss them on time because they take a lot of our time. Then I could see why there's a discontent in some of the projects that have been delayed, Honourable Moore. Going forward will indicate how many days we have lost. Some of the days were lost on the basis of climate change or inclement weather through those particular stoppages. Therefore, if the summary is there, it doesn't become clear, it becomes some of the challenges. And then the last one, the teacher spoken to you, where instead of these municipalities that have no capacity implementing, we implement ourselves. The last point, Chair, we must manage one issue. We spend a lot of money, but does the water flow in the tap? We still have to manage the alignment of the delivery of infrastructure projects. You know, for an example, in Giyani, Chair, we've brought water through Nandoni Dam, Tunzami. Currently, the Mikile Taba, there's a lot of water that is coming through. But the treatment works, chairperson, is still small. We're actually overdriving that treatment works to treat that water, but the bulk infrastructure and the reticulation is happening on the other side. These are some of the things that planning must be properly aligned so that we don't have problems. But we don't want you to dismiss your observation, Honourable Mel. They are absolutely correct. We know what are the issues and we do have some remedial plans. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Moore.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the detailed response. I think I could respond on so many items within the sphere. I do have to say, DG, I'm sorry, I clearly phrased it wrong because I'm well aware you've told me many times, and I have listened with regards to expenditure versus performance. That wasn't my intention. I just meant it's not that we underspent, and that's why we didn't achieve the goals. But Chair, I suppose the focus of what I'd like to say is this: is in the end, with a lot of national focus on this situation, people are looking at the Department of Water and Sanitation and wanting to know that we have plans in place to make things get better and to remove blockages. We are all well aware of the massive problems with the municipalities and their problems with their grants. And we've got some initiatives to move things forward better, but it would be good to get information about looking at how we are, holistically looking at the grants, because as the DG says, we don't want to create a situation where people use grants to get out of the work they need to do, like he's suggesting with the MIG grant. But there's other ways and means you can allow for that, which is basically, should a grant need to be used for basic maintenance, there needs to be consequences for the municipal officials who are failing to address it within their normal budget processes. I think the challenge here is, in a lot of cases, the department sits not an island on its own, but linked with the other departments, and we're let down by other departments. We talk about projects that are delayed for a variety of reasons, including, let's say, no, I don't want to get into, I've written letters to the department on some of the issues, but the projects are delayed for a variety of reasons, some of them that are potentially crime involved. The department can't be expected to deal with those on their own. They need to be supported by the other branches of government. The gist of it is, Chair, is that we look at these reports quarter to quarter, and as I say, there's a regression. Now, I could easily sit here and just shout at the department, but the department is clear about a lot of the challenges that are happening. What I'm looking to feel is confident that there are interventions in place that are going to mean that next year we'll start seeing a minor improvement and an improvement on that. And core to that, I think, is, especially in terms of a lot of the places where we underperform, are the grants. And so it's understanding first, how are we going to draw up the contracts so that they are better provided, so we're better protected against poor performance, and also what support is needed from the departments and what support are we going to utilize from the departments. Because, Chairperson, to be blunt, we can talk around it, but the fact is it's projects that is the main cause for poor performance in the department. And there's a variety of reasons to that, intrinsic in the way we do supply chain management in government in South Africa. And we need to look at how that can change, because as long as it continues the way it is, we'll continue having the problems no matter how hard the DG and his team work. So what I'm looking for is something beyond just there were delays, there's something else. We need to, at some point, whether it's a separate presentation, get an idea of what avenues are the department going until. It doesn't have to be here, but we do need to have it at some point to go, what other avenues are we trying to change the status quo so that we don't get locked into this perpetual year after year of the same problems with the same type of projects. But for now, that's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kilwe.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, DG, DM, and DG with the delegations from the department, our support staff, the Portfolio Committee, and honorable members, good afternoon. Chairperson, the Department of Water and Sanitation's Q4 2025-2026 report reflects commendable financial discipline with near total budget absorption and improvement over the previous years. However, the persistent underperformance on service delivery indicators, especially those linked to project completion and infrastructure delivery, signals that robust expenditure alone is not sufficient to address the sector's deep-rooted challenges. The misalignment between financial and non-financial performance is most evident in Program 3, where
Honorable member, you can't hear you.
Chair, she's audible from our side.
She's clear, Chair.
then it's my problem. Thank you. Continue.
Okay, Chair. I was just saying the misalignment between financial and non-financial performance is most evident in Program 3, where delays in grant-funded projects, technical capacity shortfalls, and procurement insufficiencies remain the key stumbling blocks. Sustained improvement will require strengthened project planning, like DM has indicated, streamlined procurement, effective contract management, and targeted interventions to address operational backlogs. It is critical, Chairperson, that every rand spent by the department results in measurable progress for the communities most affected by water and sanitation backlogs. The committee needs to maintain a rigorous oversight, particularly on high priority projects and areas of repeated underperformance, Chairperson. Chairperson, my first question is with regard to the projects which were scheduled for completion in Q4 but are not reflected in the department's recent report. The first one is the refurbishment of the Sterkspruit water supply and associated infrastructure. And then the second one is the refurbishment of sludge ponds and the sludge recycling system, which was only 50% completed during the last report. And then the other one is the Tlhabeng bulk water supply and Ebenezer and Olifantspoort water supply schemes upgrade. The Vaal intervention on pollution of the Vaal River system. I think, let me go to the second question, Chairperson. Chairperson, only 89% of the implementation of the risk management plan was achieved. Why can't the department achieve their 100% implementation of the risk management plan? And what consequences management was taken on this non-performance? Also noticing, Chairperson, with the reasons given by the department that the strategic risk assessment was not concluded. It is still under review. That is why they couldn't reach this target. It is completely unacceptable, Chairperson, because they have their initial strategic plan. Why can't they make sure that they implement that plan to the fullest? The third, Chairperson, my third question, the financial management, only 85% was implemented for financial recovery plan. My question with this one, Chairperson, the reason which was given for non-achievement of this target was that the main account unauthorized expenditure, it's still with the Treasury waiting for finalization of the parliamentary process. I don't understand why this waiting of the parliamentary process can affect the performance of the implementation of the financial recovery plan. If I can be clarified, Chairperson, as to what is it that the department is going to do to make it a point that they achieve 100% of the implementation of the financial recovery plan. And then under their strategies to overcome areas of underperformance, when it comes to the non-implementation of this financial management recovery plan, the department did not say anything with regard to unauthorized expenditure. But the reason they've given us is that they are still waiting for parliamentary processes with regard to this unauthorized expenditure. Chairperson, that is all that I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister.
No, thank you so much, Chairperson. Let's thank Honorable Gekakilwe. Chairperson, the DG and the team they will lead especially on the issues that of continuously reporting to you on the turnaround plan. Remember, the department was once bankrupt, very, very bankrupt. And at the very same time, our irregular and unauthorized expenditure was running into billions of rands on both accounts. For the condonation to be received, there are a number of action that Treasury and yourselves in Parliament want us to take. And it doesn't need to be, it does not get condoned. At the same time, certain instances, decisions were made, investigations, certain people have been disciplined, but it has been taking a little bit longer just to conclude that process. And Sean in France will give those particular details. But I'm pleased that, you know what, Chairperson, even last year, when it comes to irregular expenditure, even now, remember, we've substantially decreased it. It's actually below even less than 2 or 3%, if I'm not mistaken. But let me allow DG and France to deal with those issues around risk management, the issues of condonation, but also maybe DG, your team, just on those, some of the project Honorable Comrade Betty has raised, your Val River intervention and the others. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you, DG.
Thank you, DM and Chair. Babawa will go first.
Thank you, DG. The risk plan contains several activities that we had planned to implement for the current financial year. We have implemented several of those ones, except for one, which is the strategic risk assessment. We couldn't complete that one, and we unfortunately have had to defer it because there are certain other sub-activities that we had to do prior to the completion of that risk assessment activity. So that is it, Chairperson. The intention, Honorable Member, is that we want to implement 100% of our risk implementation plan. But unfortunately, there are circumstances beyond our control this year that resulted in us deferring this activity. Thank you, teacher.
So just to add to that, Chair, as Honourable Kekakilwe mentioned, we achieved 87% of the targets related to the risk management plan. And we do have an independent risk committee as well as an independent audit committee who also assess in detail regularly our progress on risk management and dealing with audit findings in the department. And they've indicated that they are relatively satisfied with the progress that we've made both in risk management and in terms of dealing with audit issues. So it's not as though we have gross underperformance with regard to risk management. 87% of achieving 87% of the targets isn't gross underperformance against it. And as Babawa has indicated, we try to achieve all the targets except where there's unforeseen events which we didn't foresee when we planned the targets, which mean that we might not meet some of the targets. Rizimati, would you like to come in on the projects that were mentioned by Honourable Kekakilwe?
Yes, no, thanks, DG. I think the question from the Honourable Member is slightly linked to what was raised by Honourable Moore. Now, as Babalo has indicated, the reason why some of the projects aren't showing completion in the next quarter is because of some delays. And I'll give you an example like the ones that you've mentioned. You've raised, for instance, the Olifants Ebenezer bulk water scheme. There were delays there because there were additional works which were actually discovered during excavations. Now, and this is the nature of construction projects. So sometimes as engineers, we can design and come up with all the means to implement a project. But normally during constructions, we always allow for the contingency plans where you can be faced with unforeseen circumstances. Now, in this case, when they were doing excavations, and I'm just giving one example on the Olifants Ebenezer, they then came across some long and dead buried electrical cables. This therefore affected the final completion of the pump stations, which was actually in line to completion. And this is something that could not be avoided, and therefore there was a need to now complete the excavations, do all the proper works until the completion of the work. This is just one example to show that this is why you could not see the completion on the next quarter. The same is with the oxidation ponds that you mentioned, the sludge ponds, oxidation ponds, which is part of of Campbell, the BEP project that we are running in the Northern Cape. It's a similar case. What happened there was that when they were doing some of the linings, there was deficiency in terms of the construction method of the contractor on the ground. Now you have to make sure that the construction method meets the quality standards. And if it doesn't meet the quality standard, the engineers will not approve such work. And therefore, the contractor is forced to restart the whole work. And this goes to the issue that DM has raised, that the quality of contractors as well that do this work also are critical to us completing the project. For instance, in the VAL intervention that you Honorable Dahakulu has raised, there is progress in the VAL interventions. However, what we always reported in the portfolio committee is that with the amount of work that has been done now to refurbish and upgrade some of the pump stations in the VAL intervention, there is roughly a shortfall of about 5.3 billion, roughly 5 billion, that still needs to be integrated to upgrade those wastewater systems like your Luke and the likes in the Val. Now, the fact that the department, we have been relying and waiting on the SPV to kick in so that they can accelerate some of the projects, we were therefore forced to also get our own budget, convert some of our operational budget to ensure that we capitalize to accelerate that project. To date, Honorable Member, we've transferred over 1.6 billion to that same intervention in the VAL. But when you look in the bigger scheme of things, there's a lot of work that has been done. The issues of resuscitating some of the dilapidated old pipelines, sewer outfall pipelines, the pump stations on the ground, and blocking of sewer pipelines, all those have gone through a program, and we've actually reduced a lot of spillages in the area. Now, in that bigger scheme of things, although one might look and say, but it's like there is no progress, but on the ground, one can basically say that there is huge improvement. The spillages are not as they appear, although on the financial alignment and the target as set out, it might be seen as if we're actually underperforming. The same goes to the Tabeng that you have raised in the Starport project in the Eastern Cape. It's a similar nature of delays due to construction method where a contractor had to redo the work. Sometimes it's the quality standards that we expect contractors to meet. And because we are so much following the grant, Honorable Member, where we have converted this grant, for instance, from 5 to 6B in this case, we will not approve any payment or any completion of that particular work package until it has met our standard. And hence, we are seen to be quite strict on the ground. So some of those delays are because we also expect to get the proper quality of work happening on the ground. Last but not least, the Honorable Member, some of the projects here, like the Tabeng and Oxygen Pond, at the initial phase, there were contractual delays on the ground. We had few work stoppages on the ground, and this has drastically affected the project to complete. Some of the work packages were delayed because the contractors battled with the cash flows, and we can give all those details on the ground. But these are some of the key challenges that have actually affected us from completing those projects. And as I've said, our complete reliance on this project is that where we are relying on municipalities to implement, if there are delays on the ground, either be it servitude, be it work stoppages by the communities or the so-called construction mafias, it has a direct impact on us. And therefore, the translation between expenditure and work on the ground might not be talking to each other, but in a true sense of things, it's actually the challenges that we are facing on the ground. I think, DG, I can stop right there, but I can go on and on to also elaborate more if given a chance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rizimati. Just to add 2 points. The firstly is Honourable Kekakilwe also asked about why we don't report on projects which were indicated to be completed in the previous reporting cycle, but were not completed, why we don't report on them now in this reporting cycle. The reason for that is because of the framework prescribed by DPME. At the beginning of the year in our APP, we have to put targets per quarter. And the prescripts say in our progress report against the APP, we can only report on what's in the APP for that quarter. So if some projects were indicated to be finished in the previous quarter, but they're not amongst the projects which were indicated to be completed in this quarter, then we're not allowed to report on progress on them in our formal report against the APP. But having said that, Chairperson, we are always ready to provide additional information to members of Parliament, and we can provide that information in writing after the meeting to Honourable Kekakilwe on what has happened with all those projects from the previous quarters, which were indicated to be targeted to be completed in particular quarters and which weren't completed. Then one other issue is just an addition on the issue of the VAL intervention. As we've indicated previously to the committee, one of the main causes of the problems with the sewage pollution in the VAL is the fact that the 4 major wastewater treatment works in that area under Empoleni local municipality don't have nearly sufficient capacity to deal with the increased sewage load which is coming through them. So they're unable to treat the sewage before it goes into the Vaal River. The municipality has not done the necessary upgrading of those wastewater treatment works for decades. And we now have to, through Rand Water, through the intervention, fund the upgrading of those wastewater treatment works, which is going to cost around 5 or 6 billion. And it's going to be funded through our big allocations over the next few years. So there are going to continue to be problems with sewage pollution of the Vaal until those major upgrades are completed. They are huge projects, multi-year projects. They had to go through very sophisticated design processes, and we can't. And the nature of the work is that it has to be multi-year projects. In addition, we as I've indicated, our grant funding is limited. We can't give all of our grant money up for our big or 80% of it to Empoleni in 1 year. We have pressing needs all over the country, and we have to try and spread the limited grant amount out. And that's one of the reasons as well why we have to do some of these projects on a multi-year basis. Frans, would you like to come in to answer the financial related questions?
Yes, thank you, Ed. The question that was raised relates to the non-achievement, which we referenced to the unauthorized expenditure. As part of the financial recovery plan, one of the key outputs that we have listed there is 0 balance on overdraft. So what we're indicating there is that it wasn't achieved on the main account due to that historic unauthorized expenditure balance which had an overdraft. However, on the water trading entity, a positive balance was maintained. So that was the context of that non-achievement. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone that needs to add still?
Deputy Minister?
No, thanks. I don't think, Chairperson, we shall add, except that I still feel that DG, let's give honorable members that detail for each project we are doing, like we gave that package in the NSOP. The fundamental issues that Honorable Kekakilwe is raising and Honorable Moore, we should be able to come back, Chairperson, including at a particular point when we discuss the National Water Crisis Intervention Action Plan, you know, Chairperson, something has to give up. I was involved over years just to manage that thing of the VAL. A lot of infrastructure has been sorted out, operational. Immediately we give them Chairperson, they drop it. They don't want to manage it like you were saying, Chair. And this thing, Chairperson, of giving them money for O&M, not all of them, they deserve to be given the money for O&M. It's just a management and a leadership issue. Tomorrow, I'm going down to Likwa. We fix the entire wastewater systems. Now they are polluting again. And we can't be fixing now. And then when we leave, there is no proper transitional plan and discipline to manage this thing, because there are many, many other areas that requires our support. But let's have that conversation. I love the attitude by Honorable Moore and yourselves and Honorable Kekile that let's discuss it, because someone has to play his or her part within the value chain, because this water thing is a value chain. We all in a relay in as much as we need to support each other. But it's very disappointing when all this good work, immediately we put the assets on the ground, they are neglected. Or in certain instances, like I was saying in another area, you put the asset, these guys are not ready to do the reticulation. Those are some of the issues that I think we need to be more punitive for those who don't do what they're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kekile, that was the responses.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I'm satisfied about the responses, especially that we're going to be giving the updated projects. What I want to propose to the department chairperson, because most of those projects, their deadline or the completion date was supposed to be at the end of the fourth quarter. Maybe if they can give us the updated completion date. And let me thank DM and DG and the team for their responses. I am fully covered and their clarifications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Moore, I'm going to give Honorable Ditebe, his hand was up, it went down first before I'll come to you. Honorable Ditebe.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, honorable members, DM, DG, and team, our support staff, and everyone else on the platform. Chairperson, I missed the first part of the meeting because I had something else going on, Profusa earlier today. Quite a few trips to a number of provinces. Now, we went on oversight to the Northern Cape, the Free State, etc. Now, there were specific recommendations that came out of the oversight trips, in particular in the Free State, and by extension to the Northern Cape, specifically on sanitation. We said that the department and National Treasury must support municipalities, and we mentioned in particular the Mangaung municipality. And when we said that they should support them, those municipalities, and in this instance, Mangaung, with regards to the budget facility for infrastructure, we understood quite well that the fiscal envelope was very tight, and that although DG has said before that BFI is blended finance, we would like to.
Is it only me that can't hear, or is everybody not
I
hearing?
will say not here.
I didn't hear that, Honorable.
General problem, Chair, general problem. We also can't hear
Okay.
properly.
Honorable Ditebe, your signal is not well. I'm not sure whether
Yes,
you're still
work
driving.
progress. There were deadlines of the 30th municipality, but also I'm driving, Chairperson. Sorry. Yes, I'm still driving. Can you hear me?
We don't hear you clearly.
Chairperson,
Can I
you
ask
hear
that you maybe
me?
can I maybe ask that you stop somewhere and then just get your signal up to date,
Yeah,
please?
let me try to. Okay. All right, Chair. Thank you.
All right, Honorable Moore, can you maybe continue?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll quickly fire off my next three. Just in terms of reports, if I can ask the department to please just have a look through the reports, particularly when you give executive summaries and then you give the detail later. Because in the Q4 report, the one section says there are 424 WSIG projects under construction and 140 completed, while another says 307 were under construction and 67 completed. Similarly, one section says 90 RBIG project phases were under construction and 17 completed, and in another area it says 76 versus 10. So just if we can try and clean that up, because to be blunt, I don't know which are correct, and for me to move forward, I'm looking at the report going, I don't have a number, I have multiple numbers for the same thing. I suppose it's not really a question, Chair. So the next question is in the Q3 report, several bulk sewer projects were already reported at advanced stages. I think including some that were above 80% and one that was at 97%. Yet Q4 records 0 bulk sewer projects completed. I wish I had the detail on the 97% one. I'm sorry, I was in another meeting before this. I can try and find out the specific project, but I'd like to understand, because projects at 80% and one at 97%, you'd think they'd be done by now, Chair. Unless they're stalled, I suppose, in which case that could be what's happened, and that's fine, but for it to happen across projects is strange. And finally, a serious question, Chair. The report shows a serious deterioration in debtor days. So we were at 132 days in Q3 to 451 days in Q4. I don't actually know how 90 days later it's gone up by 320 or something, but such is the situation. Can we get an idea of what caused the sudden deterioration? Is it, are there specific municipalities or water boards that are the main contributors? And what's happening? What consequence management? What credit control action has been taken? Because that's a massive deterioration in a single quarter. Thank you, Chair.
Deputy Minister.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I will ask my DG and the team to come through on these additional 3 questions that some of them is more like technical issues on how the numbers, they look like consistency. And then the other major issues on credit control and debt management. DG and the team.
Thank you, DM and Chairperson. I'd like to ask Frantz to answer first with regard to the debtor days. Frantz?
Thank you, DG. On the data days, Honorable Moore, we make use of the collection. So the formula looks at the money that we are collecting. So during the year, and then at the end of the fourth quarter, we also bring in the calculation for impairment. So those are the main elements that we are using for the calculation of the day. So the reduction in the payments through to the last quarter would have also influenced the outcome of the calculations. And the measures that we have in place we still have the normal credit controls where we have the panel of those debt collectors that we are participating from National Treasury's transversal contract. We are also making use of intergovernmental relations when it comes to the municipalities. And those also do contribute to recoveries that we are making. So those are the main measures that we are having. We are also implementing the programs that we have shared with the portfolio committee around arrangements that we are having, both incentive schemes and debt relief programs. So that relief program is the one that we are working with National Treasury, where our customers, municipalities, we sign agreements with them, and they have to make sure that they honor the current payments. And we also have normal incentive where some of the debtors would come and be willing to pay the capital portion. So the biggest challenges when it comes to the municipal debt, we are still having those specific municipalities in Free State through the Val Central. They have entered into agreements with the municipalities there, Machabeng as well, the agreement that they have reached. And in other provinces as well, we've been having engagements with the ministry, with the political leadership of those specific provinces to assist us in ensuring that the municipalities do pay. On this one also, DG, we should be able to also provide the detail that Honorable Moore was talking about, the specific municipalities or the class of customers that are maybe delinquent, so that we should be able to provide the specifics. Thank you. There is a summary, DM.
Thank you, Franz. Babawa, would you like to come in on the performance information?
Yes, DG, thank you. Within a given financial year, we have got a number of projects that start at various levels of the financial year. So let's say, for example, we have got 5 projects that were planned for construction in the first quarter, and then in the second quarter, maybe another batch of 20 will add. So our numbers, we report them cumulatively as projects start and actually are getting completed. So there will not be a consistency between a quarterly report between the projects that are especially under construction. Those that are completed are actually much more easier because as we complete them, we write them off from our books and we add them by the end of the financial year. Thank you, Gigi.
If I can just add, Honourable Moore, I think you gave that as one of the examples of what you indicated as a number of apparent inconsistencies that you identified in the report. What I wanted to suggest, Chair, is that perhaps there could be an offline engagement between Honourable Moore and Babawa, for Honourable Moore to go through all the apparent inconsistencies and to see if Babawa can explain them all or if there might be some actual real inconsistencies.
DG,
Chairperson.
I'll come to you now, Minister. I think it needs to be explained to the committee, not only to Honourable Moore. So I think we'll have to set up something where they could explain that to the committee on a later stage. Then lastly, before I go to the Minister, I'm not sure whether the Honourable Moore understood, but I didn't understand the reasoning for the debtors to increase with the days, as Honourable Moore has explained. But maybe he understood that and I did not. Honourable Moore? Sorry, before you, Honourable Moore, Deputy Minister.
No, thanks. Let's just thank Honourable Moore for picking up the things that he has picked up. DG, I'm going to suggest that like Honorable Kobe was saying, for the ease of reference, let's put explanatory notes at the bottom or the footnote of each slide, Chairperson, where there is a variance. You see where there's a difference there, so that at least we're able to explain, so that it doesn't create a wrong impression, because our document should be user-friendly, not only for ourselves internally that understand what we mean, so that at least for public consumption. On the second point, on the debtors, we need to indicate that there is a deterioration, Chairperson. There is a deterioration. The debts are escalating, Chair. They are escalating, especially on the monies that are owed by other municipalities to the trading account, but also by the water boards, and equally the money that is owed to the water boards. If you will recall, even when we did our budget vote, there is an increase on these numbers. Despite our intervention supported by yourselves, remember the one for holding back of the equitable share, we need to still to continue to do so. The DG and the team had introduced what we call it a regime for debt relief, certain conditions. There are those that are applying for it and those that are not meeting it. And including that issue of management of interest. But more importantly, Chairperson, the culture of non-payment is the biggest problem, because some of these municipalities are getting water directly from us. And but also the capacity, we'll have to attend to the capacity ourselves of the collecting agents, Chairperson, because there are these universal contracts and those who are collecting on our behalf. Because if we don't arrest this debt, it's going to be at the center of affecting the viability of the water sector. Whereas we are the agency starting to be operational now, in the exposure in terms of risk when the debtor stays have actually exponentially increased. We fully agree. We have to be able to say what are the remedial action that we are going to do to reduce this debtor state to normal numbers that we can always be saying that they are acceptable.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Moore. Honorable Moore, you're muted.
No, Chair. Yeah, no, 100%. Work in progress. A lot of the problems are all linked, Chairperson, and I appreciate that. I'm just that increase in day-to-days is serious. I haven't seen another indicator like that move quite so fast, and we have to watch these things. We've had water boards that are facing bankruptcy in the past. This is a moving target with municipalities who, quite frankly, just aren't doing their part to come to the table. Metros, normal municipalities. So, Chairperson, I think as a committee, we just need to be watching very carefully there with regards to it. But satisfied with the responses. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I then, Honorable Kegakilwe, can I quickly go back to Honorable Ditebe before I go to you?
Yes, Chair.
Honorable, let me first, before Honorable Ditebe, DG.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There was a question which you asked which wasn't answered, which is for Frans to re-explain his explanation. I think it's because it's an accounting procedure that he was referring to, which resulted in the increase in debtor days, the apparent increase in debtor days. But perhaps if Frans can again explain in a non-technical way, again, what he said about the accounting procedure, which resulted in that increase between the quarters or decrease between the quarters in the debtor days. Frans?
Yes, thank you, DG. Yeah, it was also covered by the DM, as I said, the variables there. You look at your debtors balances as well as your collection, and there's also work that we do at the end that relates to impairment. So what I was indicating is that the cash flow that we have for the first 9 months, as well as towards year end, also affected the calculations. And that is where then I was saying that we will also provide those specifics that Mo was asking, to say which specific customers. We have different categories, but it's largely the impact of lower collection. So that will stretch your days. So that is the summary. But as to which specific ones is the one that I've said that we will provide. We do have municipalities, we have customers, we have water user associations that are part of the receivables that we are using when calculating that. But it's basically the issue around collection that is affecting the debtors days ratio. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Set that out in a report and send this to us so that it reaches us within the next 14 days. Thank you. Honorable Ditebe.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I hope I'm audible now. Am I?
You are.
Thank you, Chair. Chairperson, let me start with the Umzimvubu. Okay, I must say it slowly. When the then TCTA reported, when Honorable Zlelanga asked about the viability of that project, it was stated that it wasn't quite bankable. Now, I saw during the presentation something that somewhat represented some glimmer of hope that the needle could be moving, somewhat. Now, I'd like to know whether what was reported with regards to that dam, the question asked by Honorable Zelanga, which then triggered the response from the then TCTA, whether it's the same project, and if so, has there been an improvement, or is the situation pretty much what was described to us back then? You will know, Chairperson, that Honorable Zelanga has been quite consistent in raising talking about that particular project. That's the first question. Chairperson, I want to go back, because I missed the earlier part of the meeting. And if I'm repeating some of the questions, please pardon me. But let me go back to our oversight report, which among others said that the Department of Water and Sanitation and National Treasury must, as far as possible, assist municipalities that had either applied for the budget facility for infrastructure or those that required the use of the BFI. We understand, as the DG has said, that it's blended finance, and therefore it's not a cut and paste solution, so to speak, where which will apply anywhere and everywhere. It all depends, among others, on the capacity of a particular municipality, for example, to prepare that. But I do know, Chairperson, that the likes of your DBSA, are available anytime to help municipalities. But when we adopted that report, Mangaung, for example, had already submitted its BFI. It may very well be, I'm not certain, Chairperson, and the department will apprise us about that. It may very well be that there were some technical issues which were not compliance-wise, which were not fully complied with. We would like to know where that is. And the reason being, Chairperson, that particular application, specifically what was tied to ending unsafe sanitation in Mangaung, we were talking at that time about, we are talking of, say, 80,000 units. That is in terms of the bucket system, pit latrines, etc., just in Mangaung alone. The deadline for that was the 30th of April in terms of our report. So we would like to know where that is. The last one, Chairperson, DM has indicated, worryingly so, that the financial situation of both the municipalities, rather the water boards, and by extension, the WTE is deteriorating because municipalities that ought to pay either the department are not doing so, or those that have got to pay the water boards. Now, we had that interim situation of a portion of the equitable share being withheld, etc. We had agreed that there would be a regular report to that effect. And quite frankly, I may have missed some detail. I haven't heard any, detail with regards to those municipalities in particular that are culprits. CFO says that with regards to Val Central, the Machabeng local municipality has concluded a service level agreement. Is he referring to the payment plan, which of course was interim and outside of the SLA when it was announced back in March on the 22nd, to be specific, I think? Or is he referring to an SLA and as well as a payment plan that has been irrevocably steered on the tram lines so that the municipality does not default? Chairperson, I must say that, again, being from this area, I can tell you that notwithstanding a very good opportunity that exists, namely in terms of Section 139, 5A and C, which then taken with Section 63 of the Water Services Act, the municipality simply does not seem to prioritize taking care of the leakages, fiscally speaking. You hear of reports of people being hired, etc., despite the provincial rep warning against that because of the invocation of Section 139, which allows the department. Of course, the department has already gone a long way in terms of the water services management, to ensure that the sewer system, particularly wastewater treatment plants, the pump stations, including the reticulation network, the sewer reticulation network, that I can attest to. The department, notwithstanding challenges here and there, has really done a lot, spent tens, hundreds of millions in this municipality. So I'd like to know, do we have a service level agreement? Can we be provided with that? Because I can tell you, some 3 weeks ago or so, at that time, the mayor was saying, no, in the next 2 weeks, we'll get the municipal manager to meet with Val Central to finalize the service level agreement. Now, this is a moving target. I mean, we keep hearing that, no, there is either one that's going to be signed or it has been signed. You're never too sure. And indeed, Chairperson, I agree with DM. As long as the liquidity ratios of municipalities are not in good shape, inevitably that will have a knock-on effect on the water boards, even the department itself. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you so much, Chairperson, and thanks to Honorable Ditewe. I will ask DG, supported by Dr. Ntili and supported by DG Mate, to respond. I know the issues of the wastewater systems in Mangaung. We try to help. Even in the township as we speak, there are still people who are using those toilets that are problematic, and even using honeysuckers them. But there were also projects that were funded by USDG, chairperson, and the USDG infrastructure project that I went to visit myself, wastewater treatment works that are polluting, but issues of under expenditure. But the DG and Dr. Ntidi will be able to assist, and Dr. Martin. And then the other issues around the bucket eradication, we should be able to give you the progress report. I'm pleased that there is progress on the formalized issues on the outstanding one, chairperson, in the Northern Cape. There are still some backlogs issues. Progress is being made, but I'm not impressed with some aspect. But the DG and the team are clearing some of those. But let me allow DG and the team just to conclude the other aspect, Honorable Dictator says.
Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, DM. Firstly, on the question around the role of the TCTA in the Mzimvubu project, if I understood the question correctly, and I'd like to ask Frans to come in after me just to add some more information. With the long history of this Mzimvubu project in the Ntabalanga Dam, at one point, the minister did request the TCTA to attempt to raise finance for the project, and that attempt by the TCTA was unsuccessful because the project, they found it to be not economically viable, not bankable, so they couldn't get interest from lenders. So the TCTA was unable to raise finance from the project for the project on the market. And after that, and other steps to raise finance for the project, we then, in consultation with Treasury, reduced the scope of the project to make it more affordable, and we basically halved the cost of the project. And as a result of that, Treasury agreed to fund it from the fiscus, and it's on that basis that the project is proceeding. But the TCTA never raised any money for the project because its attempts to do so were unsuccessful. Frans, do you want to add?
Yes, thank you, DG. That is correct. We did also make an application for a BFI, which we will be resubmitting. But currently, it is correct, DG, that our baseline allocation that we have engaged Treasury on, we have also agreed with Treasury that it would be used to advance the project, and then we'll still proceed with the resubmission to address some of the gaps that were raised during the initial BFI application. Currently, we are using the baseline that we have from National Treasury. And I'm not sure, yeah, my apologies, DG. I was saying, if I can also proceed, that the question from Honorable Tebe, yes, I was referring to the commitment letter that they would have made to make payments to Val Central. So there's a commitment that they have made. I wasn't referring to any formal agreement, but there is a letter that the municipality did send to Val Central committing to make monthly payments.
Is Dr. Tilly? Thank you, Frans. Chairperson, also on the question related to the BFI, the way the National Treasury has set up the BFI to work is that they can only receive applications from the bodies which are applying. So that means, for example, that we can't submit applications on behalf of municipalities. The BFI has to receive those applications from the municipalities themselves. Honourable Jitebi is correct. The Infrastructure Fund and other units in the DBSA are available to support municipalities. And I believe on this application by Mangaung, they did receive support, I think, from the Infrastructure Fund. Then once the municipality submits to the BFI, we're not involved in the process of adjudicating or anything. The only role that we play is that that we're asked by National Treasury whether we support the application or not. And on this one, we either have supported it, or if it's still to be submitted, we definitely will support it. But Chair, if you allow, I'd like to ask our provincial head, Dr. Ntili, to give an indication he might know as to exactly where Mangaung is in the process with his application to the BFI. And also, Dr. Ntili, if you can answer the question about Machabeng and the SLA agreement. Dr. Ntili.
Thank you very much, DG and Deputy Minister and Chair and members of the Portfolio Committee. In relation to Mangaung, we are working with all the municipalities, and after the visit, we did continuously work with Mangaung. Currently, Mangaung is working with DBSA, and they are now looking towards about 6 billion in our worth in our application, which is really related to water conservation and demand management, which they are targeting for October window in order to be able to be accepted even for the next year, April. I think that is the state in which they are. In terms of Machabeng, today I was with the mayor's office, and we are addressing even some group of society in terms of the current situation of water and sanitation. And the issue of SLA is not finalized. I want just to be able to mention it. And also what transpired again between us, even also with the office and myself and the mayor, we found that even the Minister of Treasury has now pushed with the letter towards the mayor that he needs to be able to honor to a certain amounts that has to be honored for the Val Central. I have also made a commitment with them that say next week, Monday or Tuesday, I will be on site again. That is how we are really trying to push it and so on. Thank you.
Can I ask the minister a question here? Why can't we force this municipality to sign this SLA? When we did oversight a few months ago, it would have been signed on Monday. And in previous meetings, the minister said it has been signed or it will be signed. And now we hear that it's still not signed. It's as if the tail is pushing around the dog and not other way around. So I really get the impression this mayor is making a fool of the minister as well as Val Central. And I cannot understand why this municipality or this council cannot be forced to sign this agreement. We can easily then ask that they be placed under section 131, 139, 1C. Dissolve that municipality if they can't do the work that is required for them. Maybe the minister needs to answer us on that. Deputy Minister.
No, thank you so much, Chairperson. Let me make an undertaking that we'll follow through this thing with on behalf of the minister. I'm very disappointed because Chairperson, Minister and myself were involved on this thing. They should have signed it. The fact of the matter that they have not actually followed through in terms of doing this one. We'll give you the feedback by next week to say how far did it go. But defaulting there is actually unacceptable. That's the undertaking I'll make.
Thank you. Honorable Dictebe.
Chairperson, thank you very much. You will know many weeks ago when it was mentioned that the signing of the SLA.
My apology, the nice thing on Saturday, me and the minister were in Free State, in Mangaung, will also be with the Premier. We'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Dictebe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. You will recall that in one of our virtual meetings many weeks ago, after our oversight trip to the Free State and with a specific focus on Machabeng, when it was mentioned that the SLA was imminent, the signing thereof was imminent, I said, we'll wait and see. and I knew exactly what was happening. It's very disappointing, Chairperson. Here in this municipality, when water is rationed, it's not due to the fact that Val Central is experiencing some major glitches in its supply lines, etc. It's largely because the minister, correctly so, has supported the water entity to say there will have to be certain hours during which water is not available because this municipality is simply not doing what it's supposed to do. You don't experience that with Mangaung. Remember, 40% of water that Val Central supplies in the Free State is to Machabeng, and 50% is to Mangaung. The rest is Northern Cape, etc. So I knew exactly, and I can tell you, Chairperson, doing oversight work is a very difficult thing because you have to rely on the agency of others, to be honest, to be professional, to be competent, etc. And I agree entirely. The minister, deputy minister have been really trying their best. But, there is this other leg of the pot, which is the local municipality, which simply will not stand. And it is really deliberate. I don't know why. And this thing, Chairperson, has got a huge number of implications and ramifications, even for the local economy, because if water is not always available, etc., it's a problem. So I know why there's this so-called written commitment to pay and so forth. Remember, even with the 30 million rand, they are actually 40 million rand short. I know in terms of that particular outcome, the arbitration said 62 million rand, but in reality, Dr. Ndidi will tell you, or even Val Central, it's about 8 million rand short, assuming that they were able to pay that 62 million rand. Of course, they only pay 30 million rand, and that's why they are rather loath or very unwilling to commit to a service level agreement, because that is the legal framework within which they will then be held accountable. So here they want to be, all arbitrary in how they pay this account, etc. I do know that there is an issue of non-payment of services, but it really is a matter of inspiring confidence in the ratepayers and so on and so forth. Besides, there's money available from National Treasury for the indigents. In lieu of non-payment by indigent households, the municipality must simply apply. And even before the water trading, the trading services reforms arrive in this type of municipality, they must themselves take the initiative. The last one, Chairperson, CFO is talking about 6 million rand. I think the one that I was talking about sometime back in April, this is in respect of this, the ending of the unsafe sanitation for Mangaung, was 3.2 million rand. And I know there is something that's something similar to the 3.2 million rand that is the BFI one, but that's for the two hospitals. Now, there's mention of 6 million rand. My understanding is that when the minister tabled the budget, he said this year that the next window is July, after announcing George Mokari and other BFI candidates, so to speak. Now, I don't know where we are now with regards to that, but my understanding was that if there were any challenges with regards to compliance to ensure that the 3.2 billion rand was approved with the help of infrastructure, South Africa or whatever, then that should be sorted. But now, if there is this talk of October, etc., I don't know where that comes from. Well, of course, maybe I'm not in the administration, but my understanding was that this had to be done because it's a very urgent situation, Chairperson. In terms of SDG 6, we are obliged as well. But in terms of also our own law and our own strategy to ensure that that happens. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kegakilwe, your hand was up before Honorable Reddy's hand was up. Do you still want to ask a question?
Yes, Chairperson, and
Hello,
thank
hello, Chair. Sorry, my Chair, I'm here.
I know you are there. It's just before you. It's Honorable Kegakilwe, Honorable Reddy.
Oh, okay, no problem. My sister, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Reddy. Chairperson, thank you. I have the last question with regard to the regional bulk infrastructure projects, especially in the Northwest. The province completed only 1 out of 5. I'm not sure if there is any plan from the department to make sure that all the planned projects are completed. And then with regard to the RBIC, Madibeng, they have spent 170% of their allocated budget and Potchefstroom 131%. So from the presentation, there was an indication that the department had to come in to assist so that Mahalis can continue with the job. I just want to find out from the department if all those planned projects were completed, because with this expenditure, I expect that the planned are big projects must be completed, especially for Madibeng and Potchefstroom. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister.
DG, Dr. Phillips and Dr. Mate and Jola from Northwest, please come through.
Mate.
Yes, no, thanks, DG. I'll just give the first response. I think the question is from slide 33 for Northwest with 1 completed project. It's out of 5. So there was a commitment or a plan that the last few work packages that related to completion of this project were going to be completed. And as we have indicated in the other explanations, some of the construction delays and extension of times have resulted in this project not being completed. So that is the main reason why 1 out of 5. We also had a situation in the Northwest where we wanted to implement project under Ngakamudiri. We ended up repurposing those funds because there were delays in the appointment of the IA. We do go through this tripartite agreement model so that we don't implement without the municipality being part of it. So those are some of the reasons. But I will ask Umhlekazi Luxolo just to give the details on those projects so that you can clarify some of the issues, including Madibeng, DG. Thanks. Luxolo?
Thank you very much, DDG. I think you have covered me, but just to add, let me start by indicating that in those 2 projects that have been mentioned, Madibeng and Potchefstroom, what happened is that the implementing agent has added more resources in terms of fast-tracking the completion of the projects. In alignment with the funding allocation that was indicated within the particular financial year, those added resources made it to overspend the particular funding allocation for the year. However, Honorable Chair, what happened is that while we were pushing for the project to be completed, but there were those delays that have been mentioned by DDG in terms of completing them. But the province, together with the IA, were working together to ensure that we are completing the project. As it was indicated by Dr. Mate, in terms of the work packages, there are those work packages that have been completed within those particular projects. For example, in Madibeng, the project started with the abstraction point together with the refurbishment, but the team together with the IA are working tireless to ensure that the project is completed. The revised time frame now It went over to this financial year, which will be completed around September this year. Then when it comes to Poch, again, we had a similar challenge there to that project, the reservoir. It had some challenges on the supply of concrete where it failed during the testing. So some of the structures had to be demolished while we were working on the ground. But the supplier has been requested to reverse back those monies. So that's the reason why the project wasn't completed. Again, the revised completion on Poch, on the reservoir, is meant to be around October this financial year. Thank you very much, DJ.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask that we as a committee get a full report on Maribeng. This project was approved in 2014 by Minister Nomvula Mokenyane, and at that stage, the project seeked 5 million from Maribeng, and I informed the minister that Maribeng won't be able to pay 500,000. So they said, all right, then they'll fund the whole project. Now we are 12 years later, and this 20 megaliters that had to be, and in phase one, had to be added to the 60 megaliter plant is still not completed. I know that Magalies is working on their version. They're working when they receive funds from you, and they stop when they don't have funds anymore. But I want to see a full report on this Maribeng from day one. What this cost for phase one, I am not even sure whether phase two is also going to be added.
We agree, Chairperson. We will do that because it's one
I
of.
can't see who is calling for chair.
Yes,
Can I conclude? Can I conclude before Honorable Randy Chairperson?
Minister concludes. Maybe I just want to add to the point that you made so he can respond to both. I think along with getting the report, what we also need is a forensic investigation. I think the time is gone now where we constantly have to talk about monies being
already. My apology. I will give you ample opportunity. Let's just conclude this, and then you can ask a question if you don't mind. Thank you.
I need to take a flight now. That's a problem.
Okay, we'll come to you now, Deputy Minister.
I'm saying, Chairperson, will do that because I've been on the ground a number of times myself and the MEC there. And I know that it's called a brownfield, little bit of problems, but it has not been acceptable because even Mahalis itself, Chairperson, you know, these projects of this nature, Chairperson, they need someone dedicated as a project manager. Ultimately, it was appointed, and the contractors were running behind schedule. Then there were other issues of the delays, and including the other projects. We've set our own implementing agent. They must give us that. But definitely, we should be able to give you the report within the next 14 days, like you normally require, or 7 days.
Yeah.
And then from there, you'll have your own determination whether there is anything to be investigated. But where I stand, I've done a number of visits myself. I know what's happening there, but it's not acceptable that after 12 years later, Chairperson, 12 years later, we're still discussing this thing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Mr. Mate?
Thanks, Chair. I wanted just to clarify one point that this project that you've raised as well as the PHS raised is one of those old and delayed projects which the department has now lifted up to have the implementation done differently, and hence we are roping in Madibeng. So there are issues that could be looked at as issues of over expenditure. But what happened is that when the project delays and the scope changes on the ground, the condition changes, there's always price escalations. And you can see for over 10 years, obviously the cost of steel and cement on the ground has changed drastically, more than tripled. So it might look on the outset as over expenditure, but because the material conditions on the ground have changed, it results in the picture as if it's over expenditure.
Yeah.
So, but we'll provide the project details on that. So I thought I should come in to clarify that there is
100.
always a justification through the engineering reporting that we provide. Thank you, Chair.
I understand that. Thank you. Honorable Kegakilwe, that was the responses. You satisfied?
Chairperson, I'm satisfied, and let me just thank the department for their ongoing support for JB Max. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Reddy?
Thank you, Chairperson. My request is very simple. There has to be a forensic investigation, because when you look at the report and you listen especially to what has happened since 2014, you realize that there's been a lot of skullduggery taking place here, and that is the problem. So I would suggest that a forensic investigation must be conducted, and those responsible must be arrested. That's what we need to start seeing. People that are arrested, not us talking about reports and reports and reports. It's not going to help. Please, Chair.
Thank you very much. When we get the report, we can go through that and then take a decision whether we would ask for that to be done. Honorable Ramaila? My apology, Honorable Reddy. Minister, would you like to speak on this request?
No, I'm covered by your response. Let Honorable Reddy, before he assume that there is any malfeasance, let him get the report, study the report, and they were very transparent to say what's happening. Then a determination will be made. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Reddy, are you satisfied with the response?
Yes, I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ramaila?
Thank you very much, Chair, and greetings to the Deputy Minister, my colleagues, honorable members, the officials on the platform, and the DG and his staff. Chair, let me also appreciate the report that has been presented by the department, which continues to confirm the significant work that the department is doing. Much appreciated, Chair. However, Chair, I want to join others, and this might sound like a rhetoric question, but it is an important and critical question in my view. The disproportion in terms of percentage performance between the financial and non-financial. It's a matter that needs to be considered very seriously, Chair. Because, for instance, finances are an enabler. It's a tool to facilitate implementation. It's a tool to facilitate outcome impact. And therefore, the disparity percentage-wise between the financial achievement and non-financial achievement is a matter that needs to be attended to. Maybe, Chair, my question would be, the DG might need to guide us in this instance. What is the negligible percentage that should be allowed for this proportion between performance in as far as financial and non-financial is concerned? So that at some point, I would like the DG to make a presentation to us, because we'll continue mentioning this. We are concerned with the outcome impact. That's what you are here for. And I have observed, and it's recurring. The third quarter, fourth quarter is a surge in expenditure. And in my view, similar surge in expenditure must be accompanied by surge in performance. And therefore, there should be a clear correlation between financial and non-financial performance. And I'm saying it's a matter that really need to be considered. And I think the presentation also, Chair, need to be cleared up in terms of certain figures that have been presented. For instance, in terms of implementation ready studies, it is the target is 6, achieved is 1, but they say it is partially achieved. It can be, because partially achieved in terms of the legends is between 50 and 79, but they say it's partially achieved, which is far, far less. It's about 16% as one of the areas that we may need to look into. And therefore, Chair, and I would want to find out whether is there any possibility of a material irregularity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister.
No, thank you so much. Let's accept the guidance by Honorable Ramailo on some of those issues, Chairperson. With your engagement, all of you, we fully agree. Some of the things, what we'll do some small explanatory notes. And at the very same time, the column on your right, Comrade Stan, will just ensure that it is properly beefed up a little bit. And we should also be in a position, like we're explaining these things around the financings, the better way to handle those ones. But let me just ask Babalwa and DG to say further, because whenever we come here, we also look at issues and say, how can we improve? I'm from an old school that believes that we don't have the monopoly of wisdom. I know that our template Chairperson is prescribed, but we can always find mechanism to make it user-friendly to improve some of the things. Comrade Sean?
Thank you very much, Chairperson and DM. Honourable Moore asked a very similar question earlier about why there isn't a direct relationship between percentage expenditure and percentage targets. And I indicated that it's because the framework for reporting against APPs as prescribed by DPME doesn't provide for such a relationship to exist. We have to put targets and timeframes per program, and there's no relationship between the budgets allocated and the programs. So there's no relationship between the amount of money and the number of targets. And for that reason, there won't be any correlation between financial expenditure and targets met in terms of the framework for performance reporting set by DPME, which we have to adhere to the letter, or we get audit queries for not adhering to the DPME framework. Chairperson, there was a suggestion that we make a presentation in the future to the committee. We'd be very willing to do so. We can present in more detail about what I've described and what are the prescriptions from DPME for how we develop the APP and how we report against the APP, which will show in detail, explain in detail what I'm describing, and that it's not possible to expect from that framework to see a relationship between expenditure and performance in terms of the percentages of targets achieved. But Barbara, there was also a question about the studies and the percentage achieved. Could you answer that one, please?
Yes, thanks, DG. There is just an error on that one, DG. The target is not met. It should say not met instead of partial.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Ramaila. That was your responses. Stanley, that was your responses.
Thank you very much. I'm happy, and I think other question will just make follow-up when we discuss the Auditor General's report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, any other questions to the department? Honourable Kobe? I haven't seen your hand. Are you covered with all the questions asked?
Thank you, Chair. As previously said, everything from the report, Chair, for me, I'm rejecting this report, so I do not have questions emanating from this report. We note the underperformance of the department vis-a-vis the spending of it, but the underperformance is worrisome and it looks like the department is declining. And because of the poor reporting, Chair, I will not be asking any question emanating from that report. My only question, Chair, is that a week or so ago, the department has received a grant of 12.3 or 12.6 billion rand given for water infrastructure grants to municipalities. Given that there is a moratorium on new infrastructure projects, what is that money particularly going to be used for? And how is that going to be allocated and managed? Because we are seeing gross underperformance by municipalities or projects that must be implemented in various municipalities, as seen within the WISIG and the RBIC. So, Chair, for me, that's the issue. And the second one is the Giyani Water Project, phase 2, which was supposed to be rolled out. Chair, with the given allocation, is any money going to go into the phase 2 of the Giyani Water Project? What's the status there? And when do they envisage, maybe if they're not going to use this grant that's given, which other budget are they going to use so that we see a completion with the Giyani Water Project? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Member, did I understand you correct? You reject this report or the presentation?
Thank you, Chair. I reject the presentation thereof.
Okay, thank you. You take note of that. Minister?
No, thank you so much, Chairperson. Let's thank Honorable Kobe. I'll ask the DG and the team to respond. But Honorable Kobe, this 12 point something, what do we call it, 12.5 billion rands. Remember, we've presented the budget of the department just on the 15th of May, I remember. And then now in the NCOP on Tuesday, that's the budget we approved as part of all the votes that were there. In our case, our total budget from the main account, we know that it's about 22 billion. Then there are transfers and subsidies. But overall, our budget over the MTF period, you know that combined two accounts is about 138. The other one is about 78 point something. The other one is 59 point something. But let me allow DG Sean and the team, especially Franz, because I'm the one who presented the figures. And then equally, DDG Mate and Sis Lucy will also indicate that we're getting into phase 2 that has been approved by the DG. We're still supporting Mopani District and all those associated municipalities, but some of those details will be given by the team chairperson. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, DM Chairperson. Risimati, will you go first, please?
Yes, thanks, DG. The moratorium that Honorable Kobe has indicated is because if you take an example from the project that the chair has raised, like for instance Madibeng, which is quite an old project, so municipalities seems to be interested in starting new project and not completing the old project, and they actually paint a bad picture on us as the department. So we're playing a balancing act here, Honorable Kobe, where we're prioritizing those old projects because most of them, the price has escalated, the scope creep has already happened in some of those projects. So bulk of the funding, we're trying to make sure that we accelerate to complete those projects, and accelerations comes at an extra cost to it. Then the balancing act we're also doing is to ensure that we still do prioritize some of the key strategic interventions project that needs to be included within the financial year. But the priority is that we must complete those old projects, and hence you would have heard of the moratorium, because we don't want just to approve business plans and municipalities run out to implement those and leave some of those old projects incomplete. That is the first part. The second point is that on the phase 2 of Guyana, I think DM also gave a highlight on it. The municipality is already gone out on tender. We are still supporting them. They are the implementing agents supported by the department. So they've gone out on tender for phase 2 for the first 16 villages rather. The first 24 villages, as Honorable Kobe will be aware, was part of phase 1. So on the phase 2, they went out on tender now. We are expecting that there should be maybe dust on the ground roughly around August or September to be precise. But that will be the phase 2A, so 15 or 16 of the villages, and then we'll have a balance to come later. So we did manage to allocate some funding to that. That's roughly around 170 million that we have allocated to start phase 2A, and also to upgrade the treatment plant in Guyana, because the capacity will not be enough once we start extending the reticulation to other villages. So the total for the phase 2-1 that we're starting, phase 2A that we're starting, Honorable Kobe, is about 1.3 billion, which we have to spend to reticulate those 16 villages, and then we'll move over to the balance. That is basically how we are playing the balancing act. So it might seem as if there's a new project in Guyana, but if you look at it, it's actually that old intervention started back in 2022 for reticulation. So we want to complete that, and we are strict on which other new projects can we take for Guyana or for Mopane district and also other municipalities. Thank you, DG.
Thank you, Rizamati. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kobe. That was the responses.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a point of clarity, the upgrading of the wastewater treatment is done in tandem together with the implementation of the phase 2 reticulation.
Could we get
Honorable Kobe? Yeah, if I can come. So it's the upgrade of the water treatment works. So the current water treatment works in Guyana is about 30 megs a day to supply those 55 villages. Now, when you reticulate and increase the level of service from standpipes to yard connections, we are upgrading it by an additional 10 megaliters to make that plant to be 40 megaliters a day. So we are prioritizing that. While we are reticulating to increase the other 31 villages, we are also planning to upgrade the plant in parallel, so that by the time the plant is completed and the reticulation is done, people have enough water. So it's the water treatment works, Honorable Kobe. Thanks.
Maybe let me add, Chairperson. Honorable Kobe, if you go there in Tsami, next to the dam where there's a treatment works, some time back there, someone decided to build a treatment plant costing close to 80 million rands. It was built on the foot or on the basin of a dam. That treatment plant was opened by the then President Zuma many years ago. And then it started cracking. Both the civil structure, it cracked, and that thing is not working. And the plant that Dr. Mate is referring to, remember there was a time when we were to do optimization. It was operating below 22 megaliters per day. We're to deploy our own teams to do that. Now, remember, we've taken water from Nandoni Dam all along that 49 kilometers into Ntsami, into that particular dam. That is raw water, so that we can be able to clean and treat it. Equally, at the same time, there was a problem on the Mikliletaba. Remember, there's a Mikliletaba, there's a canal that moves through both Vembe and Mopani, 2 districts, and it comes to that particular point. Now we have a lot of water that is coming. You don't have enough treatment capability. Now that on the other side, we have put these bulk systems. We know that Ilipele and our construction unit, they are busy putting bulk lines there. There's also reticulation. That's why in certain instances, there are areas in certain villages where there are taps, there's no water there, and then certain reservoirs. I know the place because my mom's sister, she's married to the Komninginis. And then now one of the biggest weaknesses of planning by government at a time, you can't plan and forget that you do all this bulk infrastructure, but you need the treatment works. This additional capacity that the team have included in phase 2 at least will give us the additional 10 mets, but it will still not be sufficient because going forward, these villages are continuously growing while that groundwater system, because there's a lot of boreholes that are still being used by that. But thanks to Sean and the team, the DTG Nabolus, then they've ensured that we are going to assist. Ordinarily, we should not be doing this work ourselves of actually putting this treatment works chair. But that's how it will work. And then going forward, then the wastewater system chairperson, we need to look at it. And the municipality must come into the party, get people to pay for the water so that they can be able to manage that infrastructure. Thank you.
Honorable Kobe.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm
Honorable Moore,
sorted.
you are the last
Chair,
one to ask the questions.
no,
or-
I don't. Chair, just I often have like far more questions than I think is fair on the other members to have to sit through. I wanted to ask, is there, because the DG suggested that I can send questions through or on some of the items, rather maybe engage on some of the technical stuff. Can we potentially try that as an alternative of any additional questions? Because there's a lot of detail in the report, specific projects that have come up that I have questions on, some of the numbers that show up that I have questions on. Would it be possible to have someone we can engage with following these meetings on technical aspects of the report, whether the author or anyone else? Would that be possible, Chair? Thanks.
I think the DG has made that clear that you can. However, I also feel that if you ask questions, it should also be to the advantage of other members on this committee to also receive the answers on those questions. So although you may have a one-on-one, those questions should be forwarded to us as well, so that it also benefits members on the committee, all members on the committee, to get the answers on those questions, because we work as a team. And not as
100%, Chair. Can
individuals.
I ask via Nasipo then? Because if I ask via Nasipo, then there'll be a
Yeah.
track back. Would that be
No,
possible?
that won't be a problem. But as the DG said, if there is individual questions that you in person need some clarification on, that you speak to the DG and they will refer you to someone to assist you with. Am I correct, DG?
Yes, Chairperson. To summarize, the way that the committee dealt with the questions related to the National Water Amendment Bill recently, I think is the primary way to go. That if we can get a consolidated list of questions, like that was sent to us on the National Water Amendment Bill, and then we'll respond to the committee as a whole. But over and above that, if Honourable Moore would like to have specific engagement, for example, about some very technical interpretations of the indicators and targets, we are available to do that.
Chairperson, can I just add that DG,
You're
if you
welcome.
can through Nosipo, let's just get our team now electronically to send all the list of projects that we presented in the NCOP, because on NCOP Chairperson, we decided to give all these projects, which area, who are they serving, what stage are they at, how much, when are they finishing, including the National Water Resource Infrastructure one. There is a booklet. If the team, through you, Chairperson, they can send it tonight, is there electronically, both the ones that the minister and myself we presented, so that even if members, they want to go through your office, through NOSIPO, to ask additional information, but they will have all this complete information in their fingertips. Thank you, including our interventions.
Yeah. Thank you, Minister. I understand what the DG also says. If I am not certain on a issue, I pick up the phone and ask the DG, and he refers me to someone. And I think every member is able to do that. But if it comes to a lot of questions, I think it would be to the advantage of the whole committee if the responses, the questions sent via NOSIPO to the department and then get back. There is another way as well, where you can ask written questions to the minister, but that takes a long time to get responses to that. And I think each and every member are allocated a certain amount of questions. I think it is working for us at the moment, Honourable Moore. If there is a critical issue that you need to clarify, I think the best route of this is speaking to the DG, and he will refer you to the right person to deal with that issue. Are you satisfied with that? And then
More than, Chair. I didn't want to delay the meeting. I was just just trying to solve future problems, I suppose, with
Okay.
the thought. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everybody is willing to. We're not here to oppose each other. We are here to build relationships to the advantage of the community outside there. Colleagues, thank you very much for this meeting on a Thursday afternoon. We're going into recess. There is some challenges that we received a letter that I will go through. There is a possibility that in recess time that we may call you back for a meeting, as the chair of chairs has indicated in his letter, but I will have a discussion with them before we do that. We know it is now party time and you to go and do oversight in your constituencies. But if it is necessary for us to call members back, that will be with the concurrences of the chair of chairs. Thank you very much for today's meeting, and I now adjourn this meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, team members. Thank teacher and my team. Thank you.